Lucky episode 13 of the Hearty Gentlemen. We are sitting with Dr. Laura Belus. She is a naturopathic doctor. And she came on to talk about the effects of stress on people, but specifically men, and how men might not be having the best coping mechanisms right now, or using the best coping mechanisms right now when it comes to stress. And she also delves a little bit into how that stress affects different aspects of our lives, such as our mindset, our emotions, our hormone production, and then also gives us some good tips on how we can start to curb the negative effects of stress. So, welcome again to the Hearty Gentlemen, episode number 13.
Hi, everyone. So anyways, my name's Jordan Boxer, at least in this lifetime. And I am joined here by Dr. Laura Belus, who is a naturopathic doctor, a good friend of mine. And today just want to learn a little bit more about hormones, stress. You're going to talk a little bit about balding, which I think people are going to want to hear about. But anyways, how you doing? Other than getting into that stuff right away.
Yeah, no, good. I'm happy to chat with you about all things health always, but this is a nice, refreshing chat, I think it'll be for us.
Mm-hmm. Can you believe we're finally here?
No, I can't, but I'm so happy you have the podcast, and I'm, like I said, I'm just happy to be part of the conversation.
Yeah. I told Laura about this podcast. How many years ago did I tell you I wanted to do it?
Long enough, but you always follow through on stuff. It's just when everything aligns.
Just take some time.
Years, wow. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was always an idea. But, one thing we always like to talk about, and I think it'd be cool for men to understand, is how much stress can affect somebody in their day-to-day. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of that underlying stress that they might not even know what's going on. Do you think stress is really just like a older person thing, or are you finding that it's happening with younger people, millennials, young professionals?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think stress, we can probably all relate to it to some degree or another. But I think what's unique about millennials or just the younger generation is the perceived amount of stress that is normal. Right? So before, if you're 40, 50, 60, I feel like we know when we're stressed and we know when it's kind of too much. I feel like the younger generation is just pushing through. It's not only killing our hormonal systems and relationships and other things as well, but it's this new level of normal that's actually not physiologically normal. So it's kind of to our detriment. Mm-hmm. Like just kind of going around managing a few jobs and then overtraining and then not really recovering, partying on the weekend, trying to advance yourself. All good things, but sometimes it's just too much.
Yeah. And what I like about when I speak to you about it, it's like you're a fan of Gary Vee, you're a fan of all these like self-improvement people. And we would talk about it all the time. It's like, where's that line? Because remember when we met Gary? Me and Laura met Gary Vee, Colin.
Great moment.
And we had a great photo that got destroyed by the power of Gary Vee. It blurred everything.
Yeah, I remember.
But I was sort of secretly being like, I hope he looks burnt out because there's no way. And he looked amazing.
He looked good, but you know what? Didn't he say that? Well, he kind of came out with it a couple years back, but that he was really moving the needle on his health and wellness game.
Right.
I know for a while he was, I think, aging faster than maybe he wanted to, but he was still pushing through that hustle, right? That kind of became his thing. But when we saw him, he did look pretty good. But I think he started to move the needle, and he, again, like everything he does, when he invests in it, like his health and wellness, he started to move things in a different direction, I think.
Yeah, he looks good.
Yeah.
And he still seemed to be able to keep up with this big workload.
Because the big thing, I think, when you start to notice that little bit of the kind of the pouch, the midsection pouch, and, guys are obviously trying to kind of get to that certain body. They may be getting to that certain body fat percentage or that certain kind of physique.
You mean washboard abs?
Whatever their goals are.
But wouldn't a flabby stomach dry the shirt better? Because it's like a paper towel.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's how
you
people
can
look at it.
roll the shirt in your rolls.
Well, maybe. I don't know. But the fact is, no one really wants that last little bit when they're working so hard. But that's a cortisol thing, right? That's a stress thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about so you talk about stress and hormones. What is a hormone for people who don't know?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a molecule in the body that's a signaler, right? It's a messenger. It's a molecule that's made from cholesterol in many cases, at least when it comes to the reproductive hormones, male hormones, stress hormones. So they're made from cholesterol. So FYI, if your cholesterol is like way too low, not great for your hormonal game.
So like testosterone,
Yeah.
cortisol,
DHEA,
estrogen.
which is still in men. It's just something we don't want to. They don't want to think about, but looking at those ratios, they're all made from the same molecule. How crazy is that?
I know. Because, testosterone turns into estrogen, correct?
That's right. It can go down that pathway. And the reason why it goes down that pathway, inflammation, stress, right? Being already overweight. And unfortunately, it's not a great way to move testosterone, because then you're dealing with this vicious cycle of those last 5 pounds, or trying to get extra shredded, or, in that ideal body shape. You just can't, because you're dealing with something else underlying. So testosterone is not always the end game, right? It's like, well, what else is happening with my hormones too? So I always tell patients, get the full picture. Then you can tweak.
So, men always hear like, I need more tests. I need more tests. I need more tests. But what is happening to a guy when he's getting stressed out? Like, how is that you're saying it's like impacting your hormonal game. It's not good for it. So what starts happening to somebody when they're just pushing their stress down, they're pushing through it?
Yeah, what's happening? So testosterone can go down 2 pathways. So it can go the estrogen pathway, or it can go the DHT, dihydroxy testosterone. And the DHT is the potent testosterone. It's the one, actually, though it's useful to some extent, it's the one that can cause that baldness, that top hair thinning, can cause lower libido. In some cases, it can cause aggression in others, but it can also cause that weight gain. So we want testosterone to kind of evenly be distributed in the body, but we also don't want a ton of it going in one pathway over the other. It's just broken down differently. So if you're dealing with, like I said, inflammation, stress, hugely impacting those pathways, especially because the liver has to work harder. So that's an inflammatory response right out of the gate. So you're definitely getting that softening of your body composition.
That would suck. Because and we've spoken about this before, and you actually brought this to light. Sometimes we think, okay, we want to get stronger, fitter, and it's like we push harder, but those are actually being detrimental to our hormones. Those times where it's like maybe just resting or taking a nap would actually give me leanness compared to pushing it harder at the gym. So
true. And I wish more people thought that way. Like men and women alike. It's just when you are in a training mindset, when you are in a goal-oriented mindset, it is so hard to say, I'm going to take an extra day off. But that is messing up your insulin. It's messing up your inflammation. So even if you can still be super willpowered with your food and your regimen and your training, you're going to lack that endurance a little bit. And at some point, your body's going to stop making as much DHEA, which will eventually lower your testosterone completely.
So DHEA comes before testosterone?
That's right.
And cortisol and DHEA?
One or the other. They're kind of, they work in opposites.
So if you're stressed out all the time, you're going to be producing more cortisol. So you can't produce DHEA to produce testosterone.
That's right.
Yeah. What are ways that people can start to see if they're secretly stressed? That's the word. I feel like it's subconscious. They don't even realize it's happening.
Well, the best way is asking people that are related, that are in close proximity, right? So if I were to ask their spouse, their best friend, their coworker, whoever they live with, that's where you're going to get the real honest opinion. And when I say that, what I mean is do they have a short fuse? Are they super impatient? Does the slightest thing make them flip a lid? Are they really just on edge all the time? That can be one type of hypercortisol state, because they're not exhausted. They actually usually feel pretty good. So they're not coming in saying,
so that's
I'm depleted.
Their pure adrenaline?
That's adrenaline, which later turns into cortisol. Adrenaline's that first spike, and then the cortisol keeps it going. So people still tend to feel good. They may feel a little bit wired. They may have a hard time falling asleep. So sometimes they'll some patients, they'll smoke or take substances to kind of help relax them in the night. And for some people, that's because the cortisol is just super heightened. So thinking about your own circumstance and being like, hey, like, am I doing any of this? Am I trying to pull myself back down at the end of the night? That may be a sign that things are too high.
You ever feel stressed out, Colin?
Yeah, and I grind my teeth. So like I never know because I'll be asleep. My girlfriend's the only thing that lets me know that like, hey, I could hear your teeth grinding.
She can hear it.
Yeah, definitely.
Is the solution to stop the teeth grinding or just give her like earplugs?
Oh, I don't know how to stop it. I notice when I get less stressed.
Right.
It'll be less because I can feel it in the morning. That's the only thing I can feel. I can feel that my jaw's been working. And that's about it. I don't know how to.
No, but see, the body doesn't lie. There's always something that the stress comes out somehow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For me, it's like after I go to sleep.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, let's deal with this stress somehow.
And you don't wake up at all throughout the middle of the night? Like, you're good. You're sleeping the whole night even though you get that tension in the jaw.
Oh, no, the tension will never wake me up.
No. Okay.
Maybe we should get you like a chew toy. You just put it in your mouth.
I got one from a dentist, a mouth guard.
The mouth guard,
Really?
yeah.
Whole thing, and I broke it.
You broke it.
That's because Colin is pure power. Everything
Your
he does,
testosterone's probably just
savage,
like perfect.
high DHT.
It was weird.
Yeah, bench presses ghosts.
But yeah, who knows? Like when the stress comes out, it's weird. It's weird. It's hard to find. Really hard to find. But I notice when my situations get better with whatever I'm stressed out about, all those things go down.
See?
Like for the past 4 months, I was like biting like the inside of my mouth, and I didn't notice at all. And now it's gone away.
Wow. So I think that's like a really good point is a lot of us, we can't pull ourselves down like back into neutral, back into reset. That's the issue is the stress is constant. It could be a different stressor every time, especially working out or overtraining or not sleeping and overworking. We just don't have that reset button. So
Well, who
that's
takes
the issue.
downtime? Because even like most people's downtime is like, I'm going to go on Instagram for an hour.
Yeah, or binge watch Netflix for like a night, maybe.
Okay. Instagram for an hour. Is that relaxing?
Like scientifically, no. And hormonally, no. But people do see that as downtime. Your brain is still so on. Forget about the blue light stuff from the screens.
So it's on time.
It's still on.
And you know what used to be relaxing, I think, to a lot of men? Going to the washroom and reading a book. And now I feel you sit with your phone on Instagram and you don't even get that relaxing.
See?
So how do you let go? You're probably backed up.
Constipation. It's a whole other issue.
But yeah, so okay. Cell phone, Instagram, not relaxing.
No.
Binge watching Netflix.
Yeah. So what that is doing in some sense is helping you to remove yourself from other stressors. Conference calls, emails, whatever else is on your list, managing your family, running, whatever you'd be doing on your other downtime. But internally, you're still absorbing that media. And it is still stress inducing, especially because most of the things we watch either make us think, make us scared, make us on the edge of our seat. Like we're constantly like on edge, even just watching something. Even if it's,
So watching Highlander
docuseries.
before bed is not good?
Yeah, no.
Watching a documentary on swing dancing.
Yeah, that's probably more relaxing.
Can't
But
just go through what you did last.
I know. Like, what I do. So what would be a good way for people? Because I feel like, you work all day.
Yeah.
And then you want to come home and relax, reduce that stress. What can someone do at home then? Like reading a book?
well, the thing is, that's not a bad thing. Like, having that outlet, you enjoy watching TV, you enjoy like a docuseries, cool. Put that on, relax. But that should not be the last thing before your timer phone, your TV timer goes off, or before you like fully go to bed. That should be like an evening thing. And I tell people, give me about an hour, even if minimum half an hour of no screen time before bed. So that could be reading. That could just be, getting your stuff ready for the next day. Reading is good for like a lot of men find that really helpful. Because if it's something that they like, they're going to do it for 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's more it's resetting your melatonin, which does reset your hormones for the next day. Melatonin and cortisol kind of, again, work at opposite. So if you're not getting that deep restorative sleep, I don't care how many hours you're sleeping. You're not starting the next day on a full tank.
And that just continues the stress.
Yep.
Do you know what my mind thought right when she's like, no screen time before bed?
What?
I was like, how can I like hack this so that I can still get screen time? I'm like, if I look at my screen through a mirror, is that considered screen time?
Well, you could do the blue blocking glasses.
Like if I have the mirror here and the screen here and I do it this way.
See, this is like committed. This is committed to making it still part
That's
of
where my
the
brain goes. I don't know. Yeah, so blue light blocking glasses. So like, I think we should get a little bit into that too. Like I know we don't have tons of time today, but like I think it's important for men to understand like all these things that are stressing them without them realizing. So what is blue light? How is it stressing people out?
Yeah, so the studies on blue light is kind of omitted from any of our modern sort of LED or modern LCD kind of screens, luminescence that comes through, and I'm not super techie in terms of knowing the different hertz of the light rays, but the blue light does negatively impact melatonin production. And melatonin is our sleep hormone. But like I said, it's our anti-aging, our reset, our anti-cancer hormone. So we want melatonin at night.
And blue light's good during the day?
Yes.
Naturally.
So again, starting your morning, like lights out, get the blinds open, pour that bright light in to offset your melatonin and start your cortisol. Like that's how your morning routine should be. But at night, you don't want to be looking at those screens. So the blue blocking glasses, they're like a yellow amber kind of light colored lens, and those will cancel out those blue rays.
But it's still not an excuse to be on your phone right before bed.
Right, because you're still on Instagram, you're still comparing, you're on Snapchat, looking at what everyone else is doing. Like mentally, you're still on, though you're right, you're not getting those detrimental effects to melatonin.
You said something there, comparing. I think that's another stress that guys don't realize that they're doing.
Of what?
Like comparing yourself to others all the time.
Yeah.
And how much that's amplified on Instagram.
Yep. Big time. Like the comparison, it not only affects your happiness and overall fulfillment, but if you're constantly like, I need the better car, the house, the girlfriend, the trips, it's just not helping your hormonal system. So whether your goal is to get that promotion, look and feel a certain way, move your body, compete, whatever it is, if you're not optimal, that's fine, but you want to move towards that direction. You want to move towards your like optimal state of health. But unfortunately, our daily habits are not helping us because they're not helping our hormones.
Yeah. And it's like, if only we got taught instead of being like push, that it was taking that time off would actually get you more results in the long run.
Right. But why? Like, I don't know why we don't think that.
Well, look at who we idolized for so many years. Like that Boiler Room, like one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Like it's like push hard, get in first, get out last.
That's right.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
As much as all these guys are scammers, but I'm not scamming anyone.
Aside from that, yeah.
But yeah, we're taught, like even Arnold had a whole thing. Oh, you sleep more than 5 hours a night, sleep faster.
Yeah, it's a good one.
But he's a genetic freak.
I know.
So no, he even without steroids, he's a genetic freak.
Yeah.
If I took all the steroids in the world, I wouldn't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You're like the other guy.
Frank Columbo? No, I wouldn't be. Because I'm his height.
Aren't you?
He's an inch shorter than me.
Yeah, you'd be like that.
When you're 5'6", it all matters. That extra inch. No, but these guys are freaks. I could inject myself with the steroids meant for like a elephant, and I still wouldn't have Franco Columbo's body.
Well, exactly. Yeah. We're not all that 1% or that 5%.
Yeah. But I think we all model our lives after that. Like some people have that ability to curb stress a little bit better.
And like I said, people that are stressed or that are starting to mess up their hormonal pathways, if they're starting to mess them up, they feel good. They feel good. It's just not going to end well.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. So how does someone stop themselves when they're like, I'm on top of the world, I'm getting all this work done? Because when you're in your like 20s, as much as that was a decade ago for me, I felt like I could take on the world. Like I felt nothing could put me down. Yeah. Now it's like I miss 1 or 2 nights of sleep, I'm dead.
Yeah.
So when you're starting to get through that feeling, because I think some of our viewers are going to be those younger guys, how do you teach them that, listen, I know you don't feel bad right now, but this will impact you?
Well, in my practice, I'm all about testing, right? Like I said, it's modern day. It's 2018 now. The reality is it's modern medicine. So it's good to get those numbers. A lot of people, we look at numbers for everything else in our life. Mortgage payment, bank accounts, likes on Instagram. The reality is we kind of, a lot of us are quantitative. So seeing your hormonal picture, seeing your stress hormones now, even when you feel awesome, great. If you feel awesome, let's keep it that way. If it's moving in a direction that's not helpful, cortisol is starting to steal your DHEA, like your anti-aging hormone, then we need to pull back. People need to know, do you need to slow down, or do you just need to kind of chill where you're at and keep up with what you're doing? Or do we need to fully put the brakes on? People should know that. Whether you want to wait for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, the choice is yours, but you can find out those answers now.
And can you, like most general healthcare practitioners, like a GP, when you do your full like yearly, in Canada at least, or in Ontario, you go do your yearly panel, do they check for that stuff?
Nope. You're 21, you're 31, you're 42.
So messed.
Nope.
Yeah, I know. I've had stomach issues for like 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
She refuses to send me to a specialist.
So that's the thing too. There's a refusal, even if and again, that's a whole other topic. But if you're empowered and to look for those answers, they exist. They do. But if you think you go for your annual checkup, got the clean bill of health, that's nothing. That's not even grazing the surface.
Yeah. The freakiest thing for me was learning that the ranges aren't actually like when you go for your blood test and you have the range, it's like, oh, I'm in range, but those ranges change on the whole public. So if you're in an area where everyone's sick, you're like, I'm in range, but it's like you're sick with everybody else. You're not actually optimal. And I think the men's, and again, if there's anyone who's like, he's wrong by number, I heard that over the past 50 years, the range for testosterone in men has dropped 7 times. So a man's testosterone today, which is in range, would have been below range 50 years ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's clear when you look at the men back then, how they were just on average.
This is something I want to hit on, actually. Yeah. You're seeing more and more men with, where am I going? Anyone guess?
Go in multiple directions.
Usually, he is like a little Joe Rogan. He talks about things multiple times. I think you're going towards man boobs.
Man boobs.
Ah, yeah.
Gyno.
Oh, good. You guys are
nasty,
like in sync.
I'd be Justin Timberlake. I don't know who Colin would be. Who would you be in NSYNC? Joey Fatone?
Mike Tyson, probably.
Was he in NSYNC? What's some of
He
their
should have
songs?
been, maybe.
What's some of their songs? I almost just sang a B44 song.
Oh, bye, bye, bye.
Bye, yeah. Do you remember that B44 song, the one big one?
The boy band era.
Let's not talk about
Yeah, let's not go there.
those who have passed.
They got the testosterone back then. Gyno.
Yeah.
You're seeing
The
it
man
like
boobs.
thin men, young men. It's something that like I grew up with it and I was like super embarrassed because no other guys had it. Now it's like you're seeing it everywhere.
And you exactly said it, like you made a really good point. It's not just on overweight men or men that are, don't have an adequate amount of muscle mass. The biggest factor of that conversion, testosterone to estrogen, which is what creates those man boobs.
What's the official name? Gynomastica?
Gynecomastia, yeah.
Gynecomastia, yeah.
The biggest factor is inflammation. So yeah, you could already be overweight, which doesn't help your picture. But if you're thinner, and let's say there's a food that's not working for you, you're not sleeping, you have a chronic other underlying issue, but you keep pushing forward. You are, like I said, sleep deprived is huge, or overly stressed. You're going to look okay, but the body fat composition is going to be completely messed up.
And is this something you can't just work it off, right? Like you can't just keep going to the gym doing chest every day, dips.
Right. Because you'll build significant mass underneath and the chest muscles, but you're still going to have that soft fatty tissue on top.
So you have to start correcting your hormones.
That's right. And knowing that it's estrogen, again, none of the men that I see and a lot of my colleagues see are getting estrogen tested. No one tests that unless we're doing a functional advanced test. Right? Like you think that's a female hormone. Most MDs will tell you that too. Unless there's a genetic issue, something else, reason to investigate, it's not going to be done. So you're still like, question mark, should I work out harder? Should I eat less carbs?
And then they just do the
What's my
surgery,
issue?
right? Most guys?
Yeah.
They'll do the gyno surgery. So it's like, yeah, we're not going to test you for estrogen. Let's just rip your chest out, the chest fat.
Exactly.
Weird. So, like, what if you did correct the hormones? Then what happens?
So then-
tissue goes away?
Well, eventually you do start to kind of metabolize that extra fatty tissue from the right places. If your estrogen's high, it's going to keep the fatty tissue on the chest and the lower half of the body too. But
Like
guys
your
don't
love
care.
handles, right?
Yeah.
Or your legs. you mean.
Well, love handles a little bit, but kind of hips and thighs. Less for men of an issue because there's a lot of muscle there. You guys will burn that off. But the man boobs, it's hard. The chest press.
I remember going to Muay Thai when I was like 19 and I was training like 2 hours a night. intense training. I wasn't eating the healthiest, but it was like, I'm like, I want to work these off. I was doing push-up. And it's like I just built all this muscle underneath, like what you said, and they still just looked soft. And I remember my teacher at the time at Muay Thai was just like, they're not that bad. You'll be fine. Just keep working. But like in my mind, they wouldn't go away. And it was like I could bench press at one point like 285 for reps, like it was nothing. Like I was obsessed with getting my chest stronger.
But then what happened? You said you weren't eating great.
I wasn't eating. Then I started getting into gluten-free, dairy-free. So actually, yeah, before you go today, I actually wouldn't mind. So let's say, I know you're saying do testing, but what are some things men can do, like 5 easy things that our listeners can do to start getting away from that estrogen picture if that's where they're going?
So foods are a huge trigger, especially if you're not in Canada, different parts of the world, different regulations on their foods. So animal proteins and dairy are big. So if you're not going to be, you shouldn't be consuming the conventionally raised meat, at least as much as possible. So if you eat a meat-heavy diet, it should ideally be hormone-free.
So organic,
wild. Yeah, grass-fed if it's beef. In Canada, we don't, the hormone issue is not as big in terms of, our cattle and things that we consume.
But in the States, it's worse?
Yeah.
Okay.
And big with dairy. So I'd say most guys just off dairy completely. You don't need it.
What about butter and ghee?
Yeah. So again, butter, grass-fed, ghee's clarified butter, less allergenic because it doesn't have that same protein. It's removed, right? So much, much better options. And you still get that like satisfying bit to cook with, fry with, whatever. So dairy's big. Red meat or any meat using quality sources is big. You mentioned gluten. Was that hard to kind of get rid of? Or lessen?
I just knew I had to do it, but it became easier and easier because all of a sudden it was like, oh, I can have gluten-free this and gluten-free that and rice, which wasn't necessarily the best option either. But yeah, I found it being what I missed the most. Oh, what am I kidding?
Pizza.
No.
Yeah,
Pizza. Oh yeah. Pizza was, you know what I missed the most though? Driving up to Wendy's at like 10:45 at night and saying, can I get a Baconator with a Frosty and fries? And then like, can I get also an extra Frosty? Because I used to have one Frosty as my drink and then the other one as dipping sauce for the burger and the fry. It was amazing.
I've heard the fry thing, dipping it in the Frosty. I have heard that. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Not from personal experience.
So cut out bread. Cut out dairy, cut out hormone-filled meat.
And then I won't go as far as gluten if you want to, but wheat is traditionally the highest inflammatory grain that we see. So if someone's not ready to get rid of gluten entirely, they can still eat oats, spelt, rye, especially if they have bread. But wheat is a huge no-no.
Okay. Number 4.
Those 3. That's what I would say for food, right?
Okay, yeah.
When it comes to environment, so exposure is really key. Some just for genetic reasons, there's some men that will just naturally move to that estrogen pathway over the DHT pathway. So plastics, get them out of stop heating your lunch in plastic, carrying hot beverages, drinking out of water bottles that have been heated or in your car and things like that. A lot of things are BPA free, but a lot of things aren't. And that's micro exposure over time. So
no more plastic bottles.
No more plastic, yeah. That's number 4. Then the last thing I would say is just keeping your detox up. So for people, just more greens, more lemon, more things they can throw in even if they don't want to, like a greens shake. Anything to make it simple, even if this is a post-workout shake, get that liver moving because estrogen is broken down in the liver. Yeah.
And the best thing, easiest thing to start cleaning your liver, lemon in your water?
Lemon in your water morning. Yeah, half a lemon at least. Got to be sour.
Yeah, I do that.
You can see how passionate I am about
I just
the lemon
buy the
water.
big lemon. They have like the glass container of like pre-made lemon juice, organic.
Yeah. That's okay.
Is that as good as squeezing or no, squeezing's better?
I like the fresh squeezed, yeah. You're going to get a little bit of potassium and vitamin C in there as well, which helps your adrenals, blood pressure.
Which also you were saying
pulls that
stress,
pulls the body back into the balance and that, I guess, better distribution of the pathway.
Going back to the meat thing, something I didn't realize, it hit me like maybe 6 or 7 years ago. Every single animal that we generally consume is female. You eat chicken, you eat beef, pork, right? Generally is female.
I didn't know if it was specifically female.
But most people eat chicken and beef,
yeah.
And women have more estrogen. So you have all these men eating animals that are higher in estrogen.
Yeah.
But then when I started eating like wild game, like elk and deer and wild boar, moose, bear. Like it's so much darker, the meat. It's like this, and it's sweeter in a way. And you don't need to eat as much. I don't know why. I find that I can have a little bit smaller piece.
A little bit, yeah. And I mean, obviously the composition is going to be better. But you're right. The things that we're feeding animals, like, it's just ridiculous these days. So getting the best quality you can. But if you got to eliminate something, it's the dairy.
That'd be your number one.
That'd be the
bullet?
number one for hormone balance for men, for sure.
I feel so much better since I stopped all the dairy.
And do it for a month, right? Do it for 3-4 weeks. That's how long it takes your immune system to start to shift. And if you don't feel even a little bit better, then no problem. You may be the 5%, that's okay, depending on your...
Dairies. I find dairy harder to quit than wheat.
Dairy's harder for you?
Yeah, because like I love having my coffee with a little bit of heavy whipping cream.
Okay.
Or I like, it's a hot summer day outside. Mm-hmm. Nothing's better than a warm glass of milk.
Yeah, you got it.
or ice cream.
Yeah.
In the middle of the winter, but
everyone's got their favorites. I don't know.
Yeah, pizza. But then I find so let's say options like buffalo mozzarella.
Much better.
So if you are going to eat dairy,
it's going to be away from cow's dairy.
So cow's dairy is the worst.
And milk is the worst. Cow's milk is like the absolute worst.
Okay.
Then if you're moving on the spectrum, cheeses are better than milk. Moving towards sheep or goat as much as possible, which gives people options. Buffalo is also really, it's less inflammatory. People are so happy when I like test their foods and their sensitivities on foods. And buffalo dairy is like, that's okay. They're like, I can still have buffalo mozzarella. Yeah. Okay, take it easy. But yes, you could in theory.
It's like a treat. Do you know Fiesta Farms? I don't know if they sell it anywhere else. They get buffalo cream milk, like 18% fat.
I didn't know that.
Chocolate buffalo milk. And you actually have to put a knife in to break it up because the fat like solidifies.
Yeah.
Don't buy that. Don't.
Maybe that's like a rare
That'll be like my birthday indulgence. And then, I think that was good actually.
Right? Is that doable? I feel like that's doable for a lot of people.
I think starting, you know what? I think you're right. Like if you're going to have one bullet point, just start with the no dairy. Then maybe open up to the no breads. Start sleeping better, having those things in the morning.
Yeah.
It's not, you don't have to do everything at once.
Exactly.
Because I think that actually adds to the stress.
Oh, yeah. So I'm all about little by little resetting your your new routine, your new normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some other things that men can do, like some general things, like keep better health that like they may not know about in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think the stress part, like that overtraining piece is really key. I see that a lot. So taking a little bit of a break off, like even doing, some in my practice, like, oh, my off days are like, 3 90-minute power yogas on the same day they work out. It's like, well, you
3 90 minutes in a day?
Well, they would do 3 a week, but
okay.
That's on their, like, that's their downtime. So really being clear with, okay, what do you, what are your goals? Are you overtraining? At least 2 rest days a week is what I would consider decent, depending on what you're training for. And also consumption of alcohol. I don't want to be like the Debbie Downer about this, but a lot of men, especially if you're like they're younger, over consuming alcohol, it just sneaks in. Beers, so heavy.
Is that something you would do on the 5? Like, I know we added that 5 list, but where does that rank?
Yeah, I mean, beers are the most inflammatory and the most heavy. So from a digestive perspective. So yeah, cut out beers and maybe replace it with like clear spirits, vodka, soda, things like that, gin tonic, even though there's sugar in that. These are small swaps. So if someone out there is listening and being like, yeah, I drink 15 drinks a week, bringing it down may not be their first choice. Maybe just switching to better alcohol. It's a thing. It helps the liver a little bit, right? So lessening the burden, not necessarily going from all to nothing.
I think sometimes doing that extreme change, you're bound to break, but I think it's sometimes too much of a shock.
It is. And like from a psychology perspective, habit psychology, it just doesn't work well for 95% of us. The quitting cold turkey thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Baby steps, kind of.
Baby steps. You trick your mind into thinking, I'm not really making a change. I'm still maybe having the alcohol. I'm still social, but you're making those shifts, and then you can obviously scale back.
So was Arnold right in Pumping Iron when he's like, milk is for babies, beer is for men? Because is beer considered better than dairy? And you're
That's a tough one. I may err on the side of beer being slightly better, but it depends where you get your milk, obviously. But yeah, Arnold.
I still remember that. He's like,
Words of wisdom.
He was in a prison posing, and they're like, "What do you drink? A lot of milk?" Like, he's like topless in this prison. All these guys are like giving him the look, and he's like, "You must drink a lot of milk." And he goes, "No, milk is." You could probably do a better Arnold accent than I. He goes, "Milk is for babies, beer is for men." And I'm like, again, genetic freak. You can drink beer and look like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And I think, but I think also, if I'm gonna add like one last note, that comparing to those freaks, because you see on YouTube like, I overtrain, Cali muscle, whatever those guys they push.
Yeah.
They're probably, I don't know, but they're most likely on some sort of support.
Right.
they're on steroids.
They're on
Let's not
the
play
juice.
this game.
But
Yeah.
also, like, genetically, some people are just more gifted to body comp, to pushing through things. And
Yes.
I think not feeling inadequate when you can't do what they're doing.
Exactly. Yeah, and if you're finding that you're not, like if your endurance is failing, your muscle composition is not maybe where it used to be, those are signs that the path you were on is no longer working. So check in with yourself.
Amazing.
Yep.
Any last words before we end this?
Just that, you can figure out the answer. Like, guys don't have to be like wondering if what they're doing and pushing harder doesn't always make sense. So there's answers out there. We can streamline, make you feel better. You just gotta check in with yourself first and see is what I'm doing working. If it is, cool. If not, change something up.
And also, I think to leave it on is that you're saying like when you get that yearly checkup, they're barely scraping the surface.
It's
And most
so
men
true.
don't even get that yearly checkup.
Exactly.
Nope. Unless you're like, unless you're over 40, 45,
Because
they're
of prostate
barely doing
issues.
anything.
I don't even think men are like I might be wrong, but I think last time I went to my actual family doctor, they're like, "Yeah, you're 28. Come back in 2 or 3 years." It was like you're not even supposed to go once a year anymore as a man.
Yeah, they're switching it up. The annual physical is no longer a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Public health care.
My physician told me to come next year. I told her I had a violent stomach issue, and I'm like, I think I need to see that specialist. She's like, no, your kidneys are good. She's like, we're gonna hang tight.
Oh my God, no! Oh,
Be like Gandhi. Make peace with the violence.
Yeah.
Surrender. 40-day fast.
Yeah. So,
So-
I guess is there any testing that like you would suggest for any men?
yeah. So I mean, if they want to go and get their their hormones tested, like from their PCP, like their MD, they can do a blood test for hormones. I find the saliva and the urine tests are much more accurate.
And you have to go to like a paid for.
Yeah, like a
privatized?
functional doc or a naturopath, and they would do that for you. It's just way better, way more sensitive, so the results are very specific. Again, especially if you're healthy, under 40, even under 45, you want those small differences. You want to see where things are specifically. Blood just like generally gets any diseases or any way out of range numbers. Otherwise, everything's going to come back normal. So there's not really a lot of data we can use.
It's worth it.
It
It's
is because I
worth
think
it.
even starting at young age, it's going to pay big dividends later in life.
Huge. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Peace.
Bye.
Later, guys. Signing off. Do that. See, like Jordan Boxer signing off.
And this is another episode of the Hearty Gentlemen, brought to you by the Hearty Gentlemen. We have no sponsors, but thank you guys very much for listening. And yeah, I don't know how to end it past that.
Say bye.
Oh, bye guys. Bye.